Start with contracting sprites. Chapter 256, Butterfly's New Cultivation Method. Bang! The gargoyle dragon's huge body smashed heavily onto the ground, and a circle of grayish-yellow dust spread in all directions with the point of impact as the center. The audience saw that the shocking slashes on the dragon's thick stone armor were all emitting red light from the inside out. One could feel the burning heat just by looking at it. As it fell from the sky, the dragon whose wings had already been broken was still struggling. Its claws scratched the ground as it supported its body and raised its head. Boom! In an instant, the dazzling sun descended from the sky and smashed right onto the gargoyle dragon. Endless light and heat burst forth. Under the piercing rays, the audience forced themselves to widen their eyes and look over. But still, they could only see a huge ball of light. The light emitted made the whole field of vision white. After a long while, although it also felt like an instant, when the audience was blinded by the dazzling light until tears flowed down the corners of their eyes, they realized that the bright sun had already faded. The body of a dark red sprite was revealed in the rolling flames. It spread its wings and floated in midair as sparks scattered everywhere. Like a fire god lording over the world, it let out a loud and clear cry. Squawk! The ground melted into a deep pit, and the gargoyle dragon's huge body was buried within, remaining completely motionless. He won. Tong Shang, who had just left the arena for less than a minute, was stunned. He rubbed his eyes hard and couldn't believe it. His master hound was clearly beaten up in fancy ways and killed easily by the gargoyle dragon. How did it end up being tortured by Junior Suhao's flaming spirit crow? Was it still that invincible gargoyle dragon? Too strong, too strong. An instructor from Dragon City University re-examined Suhao's information. It's hard to imagine how a person from an ordinary family is able to outwin his peers who were born with a silver spoon in their mouths. In just 2 years after contracting sprites, he nurtured 2 sprites with invincible potential. I can't imagine what will happen when they both break through to extraordinary level in the future. There may be more than 2, another instructor said. His first sprite has already evolved into a butterfly fairy. Who knows, that butterfly fairy might also possess invincible elite level battle power. 1 person, 3 invincible sprites. The 2 instructors looked at each other and couldn't help but be glad. If not for the fact that our school has Lan Qing, it's very likely that the next 3 seasons of the league would all fall under Whale Island University's rule. Fortunately. Thinking of Suhao and the stronger Lan Qing, the 2 instructors couldn't help but sigh. These days, young people are too scary. At the same time, in the broadcasting hall. On the screen, Dragon City University vs a certain key university. An exciting battle had just ended. Now, let's take a look at Whale Island University's competition. They are slightly behind in terms of time, they should be in time. Huang Tianli said as he switched the scene to the third venue. He saw. The endless light and heat had faded, and a sprite which appearance couldn't be seen clearly was buried in the ground. The judge announced the result. He was stunned. What happened to the big battle? After the group battles ended, Whale Island University emerged as first place with their score. Tomorrow, they would rest for a day before starting the elimination round. At this point, the league journey of many teams had been put to an end. Only the last 16 universities and 16 teams could showcase their abilities in front of a wider stage and a larger audience. During the day of the intermission, the popularity of the league continued to increase. Some nosy people evaluated the 10 sprites with the most outstanding performance during the group battles. The 10 sprites with the highest votes. The gargoyle dragon was originally one of them, and it was ranked in the top 5. The other sprite in the top 5 was Thunder Roaring, but that dragon can't make it. It only looks fierce on the surface. No. They knew nothing. When the captain of Yunhua University read the comments on the internet, he was almost mad. But who would care so much on the internet? Being good-looking and powerful were the prerequisites for them to become fans of a sprite. And clearly, in their eyes, the dragon that was crushed by the flaming spirit crow was trash. On the other hand, the flaming spirit crow displayed an invincible stance, like a flaming god descending upon the world. I'm a fan. Dazed Crow, which only fought one round, immediately had its own fans, while the big fat bear had even more fans. Su Hao was confused. Isn't anyone paying attention to who their sprite trainers are? Don't they know that this is a result of us enduring many hardships while nurturing the sprites? This batch of netizens couldn't make it. He was so angry. But of course, people were paying attention to him, and in fact, there were many of them. The performance of the big fat bear and dazed crow made Su Hao enter the eyes of many school instructors. Gong Gai Tianrui, the captain of Fiery Bird's school team, was watching the replay of Dazed Crow's battle. It wasn't very clear, but as a sprite trainer specializing in fire element, he had analyzed a lot of information from minute details. That flaming spirit crow must have extraordinary battle power at the weak level. Of course, he paused and said, weak extraordinary battle power refers to being under the blazing sun state, and clearly, an elite can't maintain it for long. Then, if we're battling against it, can we just use a stalling strategy? Gong Gai Tianrui glanced at it. If it's your extraordinary level ace, you can kill it head-on without stalling for time. But if it's the elite level of the second tier, then, there's more than enough time for it to kill 1 or 2 elite level limit sprites while maintaining Blazing Sunday. However, the strength of the Flaming Spirit Crow is only visible in the group battles. At the elimination round, it's already an extraordinary stage. Rather than paying attention to the Flaming Spirit Crow and Thunder Roaring, why don't we find a way to figure out the trump cards of their main team members? Don't be fooled by the smoke bombs released by Whale Island. Captain Gong Gai made a lot of sense. The team members all restrained their emotions, analyzed the data, and trained their sprites. On the eve of the elimination round, every team was making their final effort. Gurgle. Butterfly, who had reached the peak of sprite commandeering, put down its cell phone. A sense of accomplishment lingered in its heart. In an instant, its mental strength had risen. This works too. Su Hao looked at the singles, tens, and hundreds of digits that were constantly jumping on the interface as he blinked. It seemed like he had gotten a new cultivation posture. It might be due to the sublimation of the state of mind, and Butterfly's very high spiritual force foundation, and my own nurturing. The third point was the key. Seeing that the rise in number had already slowed down, Su Hao thought about it, bought 2 games with the computer, and inadvertently revealed them to Butterfly. Gurgle. Butterfly, who was just about to change its taste, caught a glimpse of the 2 games on Su Hao's computer and blinked its big eyes. One was The Soul of a Sprite Trainer 3 and the other was Only Dog. He glanced at the introduction. They all seemed pretty interesting. Gurgle. 10 minutes later, when Su Hao saw Butterfly, who had already started playing the games, he gave it a few days of leave under the excuse of restoring its energy before the league. Generally speaking, as long as Butterfly dies dozens of times and then kills the boss, it will definitely be filled with a sense of accomplishment. When the time comes, my mental strength will sublimate again. It's really not easy for me to increase its strength. Su Hao thought to himself. At night, he inadvertently walked past Butterfly again, his eyes glancing at the computer screen. Let me see, how many times have you died, eh? On the screen, a certain character was showing off in front of the boss with a very graceful posture, before finally killing it while remaining unharmed. Gurgle. Butterfly made a sound of appreciation. Su Hao fell silent. Why did it become like this? Clearing the level without any setbacks or dying dozens of times was a loss of one's soul. What exactly went wrong? Su Hao thought about it. After comparing horizontally with Butterfly's peak sprite commandeering battle and the game he just bought today, he finally discovered the root of the problem. No teammates. When fighting the union of sprite trainers, Butterfly would either team up with Big Fat Bear, little bright knight, or, team up with them. That was the key to Butterfly's inability to reach the peak. So, in order to let Butterfly's mental strength continue sublimating, I have to give Big Fat Bear and Little Bright Knight a chance to play the game. As a sprite trainer, I'm really too good to my sprites. Chapter 257, I think Crow can do it. July 24th was the day the elimination round began. The venue was the real simulation battlefield in the campus of Dragon City University. Similar to Whale Island University, the whole battlefield was like a basin, sinking inward. The venue was surrounded with towering lofty city walls as platforms protruded out from them. That was where others could watch the battle. Today, there were especially many spectators. School teams that had already been eliminated, elite big bosses from all walks of life, and so on were gathered here. There were much more spectators than on the opening day of the league. On the front of the battlefield, every seat in the VIP audience space had already been reserved. Those who could sit there were all big bosses. Whale Island University had a few spectator seats, while Heavenly King Bulletin occupied 2 seats himself. Many university instructors could only stay on the spectator platform and look down on the field. Our top 16 teams are different. The lounge was embedded at one end of the city wall. Su Hao stood near the window and looked out. The forest below was all lush, and steep hills pierced the ground like sharp swords. Further away, he could see small lakes. The surface of the lakes were as blue as mirrors, beautiful and magnificent. At the end of his vision, there were 2 very eye-catching towers on both sides of the battlefield. The towers represented one's lifeline in the rules. In reality, they represented the command centers of the war zone and the world's entrances. Just as the rules stated, one could lose the team battles but not the towers. Losing the tower would result in immediate defeat. The elimination rounds weren't tense. There was 1 round every morning and afternoon, so it took 4 days for the top 16 to advance to the top 8. Whale Island University's battle was on the 3rd day. Early morning. Su Hao leaned against the window and looked down. The 2 teams battling today were Black Dragon University and West Capital Sprite University. Team members, please get ready, the judge who was riding a flying sprite shouted. In an instant. Buzz buzz buzz. In Su Hao's eyes, a white hexagonal crystal rose from the top of each tower on the left and right. Rings of light sprinkled down from the top of the crystals, covering the 2 towers entirely. For a moment, the 2 towers became hazy, like a phantom. That's a special defensive force field, said Mentor Ma. The tower can't be broken. It's not only because of the rules, but also because of the existence of a special force field. At least, within 3 hours, even if a few extraordinary level sprites bombarded it one after another, they wouldn't be able to break through the defensive force field. They can only enter through the gate at the bottom of the tower that isn't covered by the force field. The white crystals weren't the only items that appeared with the buzzing. Within 1/3 of the battlefield's center, 4 white light pillars shot into the sky at the same time. Rings of brilliance spread out, covering 100 meters of the surroundings. It was a resource point. The whole battlefield started. At the same time, the judge flying in the air also waved his flag down forcefully. Battle, begin. As soon as he finished speaking, the battle didn't erupt immediately. Instead, it was terrifyingly quiet. The 2 teams and 10 sprites were all hiding in the battlefield. There was only the sound of leaves rustling in the wind. A few minutes passed in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, boom! A huge battle broke out beside a resource point. From Su Hao's angle, his vision was blocked by the peak, but the picture taken from the high-altitude flight showed 2 sprites starting a fight around that resource point. Hot and scorching fireballs blasted out like cannonballs. The wind gathered into a blade more than 10 meters long, and whooshed past. Boom! Boom! Large trees more than 10 meters tall were ignited before blasting into pieces. Small mountains dozens of meters tall also fell diagonally under the slash of the wind blades as smoke and dust filled the sky. The drone in charge of filming was affected by the battle's aftershock from time to time. It directly exploded in mid-air, forcing the organizer to continue sending drones into the arena. The scene was very explosive. Suhao recalled that the challenge segment was also held in the simulation battlefield last year when he first enrolled. But at that time, they were just a group of newbies. The powerful sprites were just beginners at the elite level. Compared to now, they had mastered advanced unique skills and secret manuals at the elite level limit. Their destructive power was not on the same level as before. The most direct reflection was the collapsing and exploding trees and mountains. The destructive power reached its peak when the trump cards of both parties, an extraordinary level black dragon and an extraordinary level tide calling spring sprite, confronted each other. Countless water pillars exploded, turning into water dragons, water sabers, and water curtains. In an instant, the vegetation and mountain ranges within a radius of hundreds of meters lost their original appearances. How much money would it cost to repair them? Gurgle. Butterfly, who was leaning against the window, felt its heart ache. Suhao also understood. No wonder we have to participate in the group battles first. No wonder we only fight 2 rounds a day. Thinking about it carefully, given the level of destruction of the battlefield at the moment, it would have to be repaired before the battle started later in the afternoon. The workload of the construction team. Well, it was not small at all. They weren't fighting simulated battles, but money. But from the perspective of a sprite, it surely feels good to destroy everything without fear. Squawk! The dazed crow looked down, the collapsed mountains reflected in its eyes. Because the battlefield was vast enough, there was no space restriction of 500 by 500 unlike during the group battles. Both parties' tactical arrangements also became much worse. There were often fierce fights, but the results were all 0-0. The battle continued until the end of the time. There were still 3 sprites on both sides, and Black Dragon University won with an advantage of dozens of points. It's too complicated. He really wasn't very good at strategizing and planning. After all, it was completely okay to fight directly. Why should he consider tactics? The rules of the league were clearly a little troublesome. Suhao scratched his head. Forget it, if you want to lose hair strategically, that's the captain's business. What has it got to do with a substitute member like me? If not. He looked at Butterfly. Since Butterfly could team up during the challenge segment, then it was reasonable for it to know how to formulate tactics, right? The difficult tactical plan mission did not land on Butterfly. Instead, it was handled by the team leaders and experienced instructors. Suhao was still helping Butterfly raise its mental strength. At this moment, he was sitting in front of a laptop. His eyes were fixed on the screen as he pressed the keyboard continuously. The big fat bear's internet addiction is too strong. I can't give it any more opportunities to come into contact with games. Little bright knight. I can't let it follow in Fat Bear's footsteps. Therefore, after thinking about it, Suhao decided that if he didn't go to hell, who else would? He turned on the computer and tapped on the keyboard. He had to be straightforward with this. Gurgle. Butterfly called out in dissatisfaction. Suhao froze. Was he really that lousy? He was just helping Butterfly sublimate its mental strength. He looked at the word lousy in capital letters on the screen, pressed hard on the keyboard, and pressed the keycaps with all his might. On the 3rd day of the elimination round, Whale Island University vs a certain Key University. The ones who went on stage were 4 reserve players and a tool player reserve. As expected, they won. At this point, sprites such as the Dazed Crow and the Big Fat Bear which dazzled in the group battles had long been forgotten. What attracted the most attention on the internet were the extraordinary sprites with infinite power. The Dazed Crow, which had been abandoned mercilessly after being popular for only 2 days, was only able to cry out hoarsely. Its eyes stared at the mountains on the field like a mountain crow. Soon, it was the 6th day of the elimination round. In the quarterfinals, Whale Island University vs Heavenly Horse University. In the lounge, after listening to the battle tactics arranged by Instructor Ma and reading the information on the trump cards of Heavenly Horse University, Su Hao glanced at the Dazed Crow's interface information and said, "Mentor, I think my crow can do it." Chapter 258, The Most Crucial Battle of the League. The battle tactics arranged by Mentor Ma weren't complicated. Su Hao understood right away. The strategy could be summarized into one sentence: protect the two and fight for the two. They were planning to protect the two resource points, and if they had more time and capability, they should fight for the other two resource points. They could choose not to fight, but they had to make sure their opponent couldn't snatch the resource points. The reason why our whole strategy is arranged so simply and crudely is also because of our overwhelming strength. Whale Island University's planned lineup consisted of 4 extraordinary levels and 1 elite level. And key universities usually only had 1 to 2 extraordinary levels. As long as they weren't complacent, it wasn't a problem for prestigious schools to win. So, Su Hao, who had finally gotten a slot just to make up for the numbers, decided to give the opportunity to the Dazed Crow. Let it enjoy itself. What, you're saying we have to be stable? That is what extraordinary teammates should do. As an elite who is just there to be a bystander, all I have to do is to enjoy myself. At the Red Square Tower, Su Hao walked into the tower with a few seniors. The space on the first floor of the tower was very spacious, and could accommodate many sprites. "We'll all summon our sprites," said a senior surnamed Nan. His 5 fingers spread open, and ripples appeared in front of him. A sprite clad in armor appeared majestically while holding a broadsword. Bang! The blade made a loud sound when it hit the ground, but there were no traces on the ground. The golden armored overlord gestured with the blade, as if it wanted to slash again. However, Senior Nan pushed it away. That golden armored overlord and Dazed Crow might have some common topics. After summoning the Dazed Crow, he also threw it outside the tower. He then retreated to leave enough space. The next moment, boom! With a dull bang, a huge stone giant appeared in the space within the tower. This stone giant was extremely big. It was 7 to 8 meters tall, twice as tall as an elite-level stone giant. When it stood there, the door of the tower was completely blocked. It couldn't go out even if it wanted to. The stone giant that was good at defense was their tower gatekeeper. Utilization of blocking tactics. At the same time, in the blue tower, the 5 people from Heavenly Horse University stood on the upper level of the tower and looked into the distance. "Our opponent is Whale Island University, don't be too pressured," said the captain. "But it's not like we don't have a chance to win. Protect our sprites and focus on dealing with the weakest one of Whale Island University. If we can defeat a sprite and get a 100 marks difference, we still have a slight chance of winning." He paused for a moment before continuing. In the previous round, Whale Island University's battle lineup consisted of 4 extraordinary levels and 1 elite level. If possible, we have to find that elite level sprite and surround it. Another team member said. The 5 of them gathered their palms and waved them down heavily together. 10 minutes had passed since the start of the battle between Whale Island University and Heavenly Horse University. The entire battlefield was still calm. Only the 2 resource points closer to the red side were occupied by 2 of Whale Island University's sprites. At this moment, in a certain part of the forest, a fire crow with dark red feathers started to shuttle between giant trees. It recalled the mission its sprite trainer had given it investigative, and its sharp gaze swept the surroundings. It was an experienced scout. Suddenly, a thick vine shot out from one side. Halfway through, it split into countless vines, enveloping the fire crow from all directions. The Dazed Crow was fearless. In an instant, it activated the flaming feather form. With a slash of its feather blades, resplendent sharp flames flew out, burning the vines close to it into ashes. At this moment, the Dazed Crow folded its wings and swooped down. Like a dark red arrow, it flew towards the direction of the vines. Too impulsive. What do you mean by impulsive? Inside the tower, Senior Nan heard Su Hao's murmur. He turned his head and asked somewhat agitatedly, "Has your fire crow discovered the enemy's movements?" "No. To be more precise, it was discovered, and it has already been surrounded." "Senior Nan, how can you speak so calmly when your sprite is being surrounded?" "Perhaps because the opponents weren't strong and there weren't any supernatural beings? If it were just 2 to 3 elite level sprites, his junior's flaming spirit crow might really not feel afraid." As he thought so, he heard, "There are a total of 3 sprites, including an extraordinary storm god hound." Senior Nan choked, turned to look at Su Hao and typed a question mark. Then, he said anxiously, "Junior, why don't you summon your flaming spirit crow back first?" Sprite commandeering, summon was a standard life-saving method. It could naturally be used in the league, but there were restrictions. It could only be used a maximum of 3 times. To be honest, 3 times wasn't enough. He had to use it sparingly. But the summoning wasn't omnipotent. It required time for casting, and for the sprite trainer's perception and discovery. Once it was slower by a second or half a second, a sprite that had fallen into a coma might be the one that was summoned back. Senior Nan thought, since Junior Su Hao discovered something wrong earlier on, then, he should be able to summon it back, right? Boom! In the distance, the sound of a battle eruption woke him up. From afar, one could see a dazzling ball of light rising slowly. Along with the judge's announcement that resounded throughout the entire battlefield, Heavenly Horse University, Death Locust, eliminated. Blue Tower. Damn it! I didn't expect that Fire Crow to actually turn around and launch a sneak attack. Moreover, it killed their team's Death Locust in one hit. It completely messed up their plans. A look of determination flashed across the captain's eyes. "We're already more than 100 points behind, and our overall strength is at a disadvantage. It's impossible to turn the tables, but we can lose the competition, but that flaming spirit crow must die. At the very least, we have to showcase the glory of our Heavenly Horse University." He looked at the other team member who had an extraordinary level sprite. "Ask your wind-chasing horse to stop the other sprites. Buy me some time, give me a minute." Squawk! On the chaotic battlefield, a blazing sun rose. Under the blazing sun, a storm godhound rode the wind and came straight up. The extraordinary level storm godhound was as tall as an adult. It looked handsome, like a big white dog. Its fluffy hair swayed slightly, bringing with it waves of airflow. The airflows formed wind chain-like substances that climbed onto the blazing sun. For a moment, the blazing sun sank into a sluggish state. The rolling flames couldn't burn those invisible winds too. The storm godhound stepped on the air with all 4 legs and charged up from below like a beam of white light. Boom! The sun trembled, and countless flames scattered and fell, igniting the giant trees. In the sky, the blazing sun was constantly entangled with the white shadow. In just 10 seconds, the white shadow dodged the red saber light slashing at it head-on. Its claws were covered with a thick layer of protection, and it went straight into the rolling flames. Boom! A flaming crow covered in raging flames was suddenly sent flying and it started to fall from the sky. The storm godhound chased after it again. With a wave of its claws, 3 substantial wind blades swept over and slashed onto the dazed crow's body. Its armor formed from the flowing flames was directly broken. Flames splashed everywhere. Countless, broken, bright and dark red feathers floated down from the sky slowly and reflected in the crow's eyes. The crow was stunned. It stared blankly at the bald spot on its chest. It looked at the big white dog that was constantly enlarging in his eyes. Something seemed to have exploded in its body. Hot flames appeared from the depths of its soul, pouring out from its wounds and spraying out from its wings. Countless flames wrapped around it, and a blazing sun appeared again. It became increasingly dazzling and majestic looking. Layers of fire waves spread in all directions. In an instant, the whole forest became a sea of fire. What happened? With the help of the Sprites' perspective, the heavenly horse contestants saw the scene in front of them and were stunned. The captain guessed, "It's breaking through due to luck." As expected, the next moment, the judge who appeared on the battlefield while riding a flying sprite blew the horn to represent a pause. The battle stopped. Under the envelopment of a huge wave of psychic power, all of the sprites suddenly stopped regardless whether they were fighting or rushing. In formal competitions, when sprites accidentally broke through, they were given priority over the competition. "Give that little rascal some fire element spiritual jades," said a big boss from the organizer's side. But just as he finished speaking, he saw fiery red spiritual jades floating out of Whale Island University's lounge. He couldn't help but be stunned. Did it happen to bring spiritual jades with it? There's no need to send anything then. In the lounge, as an audience, Butterfly had no restrictions on bringing supplies. It had long prepared spiritual jades worth hundreds of credits in that small bag on its body. At this moment, when it saw its little brother, Dazed Crow, breaking through, it immediately used its mental power to send out the spiritual jades. Fortunately, the Dazed Crow wasn't too far away. Otherwise, it would have to consider sending someone to pass the parcel. Gurgle. The spiritual jade was in place. After absorbing a large amount of pure spiritual force, the conditions for the Dazed Crow's breakthrough were finally met. Its aura kept rising, and the flames became increasingly hot. The bald feathers on its chest also showed faint signs of growing back. After a while, its aura finally reached its peak. It let out a loud and clear cry, squawk. Countless flames exploded, and a large dark red bird flew out from the sea of fire. It spread its wings wide and the overflowing energy was completely fixed at the extraordinary level. Its breakthrough succeeded. An extraordinary sprite was born in the eyes of countless spectators. Su Hao from Whale Island University, just a first-year student, is already a master-level sprite trainer. Many people expressed the same sentiments. At this point, the judge also reappeared in the sky and blew the horn. Battle, continue. As soon as he heard the word continue, the captain of Heavenly Horse University suddenly shouted through the contract, "Vacuum break." At the same time, he used sprite commandeering, visual sharing to link his vision with the storm god Hound's vision. He observed that the wound on the large dark red bird's chest was still there. After all, breaking through doesn't have the effect of full blood resurrection. While its injuries are not light. The storm god Hound ran forward on all fours. Flames automatically parted wherever it went. It opened its mouth and let out a low growl. Endless airflow gathered in its mouth, turning into grayish-white light before being shot out forcefully. It pierced through the air and the flames. Along the way, the mountain ranges were directly cut off, and even the feathers of the Dazed Crow were charred, but it didn't dodge. It still chose the most direct and violent way to respond. Flaming blade slash. Its feather blades extended inch by inch, and a blazing sun appeared. However, the surging flames on its body quickly converged, covering the feather blade on its right wing layer by layer. The flowing flames were like burning air as the surrounding temperature rose rapidly. The plants burned up and turned into gas. The surrounding sea of fire was affected as countless flames swarmed over and entered the flaming blade. In an instant, a piercing red light shot into the sky. The air distorted, making it difficult to directly look at it. The Dazed Crow, which aura had reached its peak after just breaking through, also swung its peak saber. Flaming blade slash. Flowing blade like fire. The red light slashed across, incinerating the airflow and extinguishing the storm god Hound's accumulated attack. The flaming blade aura, which was only slightly weaker, slashed forward without any reduction in momentum. It passed through layers of space and instantly appeared in front of the storm god Hound. The white dog's fur stood on end. It instinctively wanted to dodge, but as the flaming saber light flew over, the flames filled the sky and covered it. Its aura was locked, and there was no way to dodge. It could only let out a low growl. Grayish-white wind covered its body, and its fluffy hair fluttered slightly. It stepped on air with its 4 feet and slammed forward with an indomitable momentum. Bang! Huge flames exploded above the battlefield, illuminating the sky red. It also reflected the dead grey face of the heavenly horse captain. Whale Island University won without any suspense. In fact, it didn't even take 3 hours of battle time to defeat Heavenly Horse University. But for Fiery Bird University and Dragon City University, they didn't just see Whale Island University's victory. I want all information of that flaming spirit crow within 3 hours. Gong Gai Tianrui said. That flaming spirit crow can't be underestimated. Considering the tactical arrangements, it's possible for it to go on stage. We need to get the most detailed information on it. A certain instructor from Dragon City University also instructed. Naturally, a large-scale intelligence gathering like this couldn't be hidden from Whale Island University's instructors. In the villa, Mentor Ma looked at Su Hao as if he had understood something. Since the breakthrough of Flaming Spirit Crow was in your plan, did you also plan to use its breakthrough to attract the attention of Dragon City and Fiery Bird so that you can better hide your butterfly fairy? I see. Zhang Zaihoki added, back then, you were able to set a record for the challenge segment because you planned it before the battle started. Now, for the league, you've also been setting up your plans since a long time ago. You've planned everything to win the final battle and to pave the way for Butterfly Fairy's appearance on stage. Impressive, impressive. When the other seniors heard this, they all casted looks of admiration. Su Hao was a little stunned. He merely just saw Dazed Crow's chance at breakthrough, so he allowed it to take a walk and have fun. In any case, he had a few teammates to back him up. Even if he lost, they still wouldn't be defeated. If he fought well, Dazed Crow would break through. It was a sure win situation. He actually had so many intentions? Su Hao thought for a while. It seemed, indeed, very reasonable. As expected, I'm really a strategist. When the 4th day of the elimination round ended, the list of the top 4 was released. Dragon City University, Whale Island University, and Fiery Bird University. The 3 prestigious universities lived up to expectations and stood out. And the last of the top 4 was Suani University. Their signature sprite, Housekeeper Swan Ni, was a rare sprite with pseudo-monarch potential. However, its development level was not as perfect as Fiery Bird. When we reach the top 4, every team has to fight the other 3 teams to determine the final ranking. Mentor Ma smiled. Fortunately, tomorrow morning, we'll battle Suani University, and in the afternoon, Dragon City University is up against Fiery Bird University. This meant that the trump cards of Dragon City and Fiery Bird had to be revealed a step earlier. Whale Island had a slight advantage in intelligence. They also had Butterfly Fairy, which was good at illusions, assisting, and investigating, and was very helpful in small-scale battles. There's a high chance of winning. Mentor Ma was all smiles. But his optimism only lasted half a day. The next morning, Whale Island University vs Suani University. There were no accidents. And in the afternoon, after the battle between Dragon City University and Fiery Bird University, Dragon City University wins. With the announcement of the judge, the battle came to an end. At this moment, only an hour and 15 minutes had passed since the battle started. Dragon City University won with a complete crushing result of 5-0. In that battle, the one who shone brightly wasn't Dragon City University's Captain Wang Dong, but an unknown freshman, Lan Qing. And her Storm God Hound. It possessed a battle power that was even stronger than Gong Gai Tianrui's Fiery Bird. But how can it be so strong? Its strength is completely unreasonable. Mentor Ma couldn't understand. But Su Hao saw the interface clearly stating, domain enhancement. That was the power of the wind. This made Mentor Ma, Wang Qi and the others look extremely solemn. The next day, under the anticipation of countless spectators, the high school league ushered in the most critical battle. The battle to decide the champion. Chapter 259, Champion. Champion. In the top 4's round-robin battle, if Dragon City University could defeat Fiery Bird and Whale Island, they would no longer face any obstacles in becoming the champion. The remaining Suwannee University team naturally couldn't stop them. But if Whale Island University wins them and loses against Fiery Bird, the 3 prestigious schools will have a record of 2 wins and 1 loss. Then, the champion will be determined by the scores of each round. In the broadcasting hall, Huang Tianli said to the audience, theoretically speaking, as long as Whale Island University defeats Dragon City University with an absolute advantage, and then loses to Fiery Bird with a huge disadvantage, Fiery Bird University will have a slight chance of winning the championship. Of course, that's just a theory. In yesterday's battle, Fiery Bird University lost completely. Although it was partly due to strategic mistakes, it is obvious to everyone that Dragon City University's strength is much stronger than Fiery Bird. With such an advantage, if Whale Island can defeat Dragon City, then defeating Fiery Bird won't be a big problem. But the greatest possibility is that Dragon City will crush Whale Island, so the main focus is which team will emerge as second place, Whale Island University or Fiery Bird University. Si Yuerong, who was sitting on the right, smiled and asked, Tian Li, do you feel that there's no hope for Whale Island University anymore? That? Of course not. Huang Tianli paused for a moment and said, after all, it's a prestigious school, it's impossible to say that there's no hope. But you can see the difference in battle power between the 2 sides. It's no exaggeration to say that the Storm Godhound is the strongest sprite since the high school league was held, there's no sprite which can match it. How strong? Its ordinary wind blades could even suppress the high-level unique skills of other sprites, it was this strong. As a special guest commentator, Huang Tianli already understood the reason. That person was actually a natural-born domainer. The power of that Storm Godhound was reasonable. These were relatively secret information. He didn't reveal them to the audience, and most people wouldn't understand even if he did. As a commentator, he constantly analyzed the tactics and pros and cons of both parties. Then he concluded that Whale Island University was in danger. At this moment, in Whale Island University's lounge, Captain Wang Qi expressed that the pressure was immense. Based on the situation yesterday, that Storm Godhound definitely has the ability to suppress us in a one-on-one battle, and even defeat our ace sprite in a short period of time. Their trump cards were the 5 strongest sprites of Whale Island University. It was much stronger than normal extraordinary sprites and was even stronger than 1 or 2 extraordinary sprites cultivated by key universities. But still, not a match. Wang Qi knew his place. Not only that, the Storm Godhound is a wind element sprite, it's extremely fast and it comes and goes like the wind. If we split up and occupy resource points, it might break through us one by one. And if our sprites form teams of 2, they can only occupy 2 resource points. They can't interfere with the opponent, but they are very likely to be harassed continuously by that Storm Godhound. This meant that the enemy would score steadily, while they were scoring intermittently. It was just a slow death. So, my plan is to form a team. Wang Qi said. The Storm Godhound is extremely strong individually, but in a team battle, its effect is inevitably weakened. And we have Butterfly Fairy, who is good at assisting and cooperating. Gathering strength is our only chance. What do you think? Zhang Zihoqi nodded. Senior Qinya and another senior agreed. Su Hao agreed and added, according to senior's plan, I've extended another tactic. It was 8:50 a.m., and the 2 teams started to enter the arena. The members of both teams entered the arena. The two commentators also received the name list of both teams at the first moment. Whale Island University's team members are Wang Qi, Zhang Zaihoki, Qin Yi. Wait, it's actually Su Hao. Su Hao's sprite is that flaming spirit crow, right? It's only an extraordinary that has just broken through. It shouldn't be as good as those veteran extraordinary sprites, right? Maybe Whale Island University has some plans in mind. Huang Tianli had a vague feeling that something unexpected might happen to his prediction again. But after thinking about it, he thought about where it might have come from. The flaming spirit crow couldn't have suddenly found its small universe, right? Now we see that both teams have already started to summon their sprites. The screen showed the scenes inside the two towers, red and blue. Lan Qing from Dragon City University summoned her storm god hound. The big white dog howled and circled Lan Qing twice after appearing, rubbing its big head against her shoulder. In Whale Island University's tower, Red Flame Kyang Chi, Goat Horn Immortal, Holy Spirit Bird, were summoned one after another. At this moment, they saw the last person, Su Hao, spreading his fingers wide too. Ripples appeared in space, and a fire. What sprite? Isn't that just a flaming spirit crow? In the scene, a sprite clad in a green butterfly dress appeared from the ripples. It had big watery eyes, emerald green hair and fair arms. Its 3 pairs of emerald green wings flapped slightly, making it float in mid-air. Faint mist enshrouded around its body. In the audience's eyes, countless petals seemed to be falling as sparkling special effects appeared on the screen. What kind of sprite is that? 1 hour, I want all the information on that sprite in 1 hour. Ah, I'm dead. Ah, I'm dead. Ah Wei is also dead. Huang Tianli was stunned for a few seconds before he reacted. That's a butterfly fairy. The sprite form that appeared just this year evolved from Silkworm Baby. His words seemed to have cast a huge rock on the calm lake. Countless audience members were seething with excitement. What? Silkworm Baby can actually evolve into a human-shaped sprite? I want 100 Silkworm Babies in an hour. Oh my, should I continue watching the competition? Or should I buy a Silkworm Baby to contract right away? Buy a Silkworm Baby, of course. I have a feeling that today, no, in an hour, Silkworm Baby is going to start selling out and its price will be hiked up. Countless comments flew in. Huang Tianli was stunned. He turned to look at his colleague, Siu Rong, and asked. Did I not mention that it's very, very difficult for a silkworm baby to evolve into the butterfly fairy? In the tower, Su Hao reached out and passed through a petal. There was actually a cold feeling to it. It had used the ability of illusionary transformation and mirage even more skillfully. It was just that. Using such a rare ability to create an appearance special effect. He kept feeling that there was still something lacking. He pondered for a moment. Why don't we add another BGM? That makes a lot of sense, gurgle. Butterfly nodded. Among the 5-man team from Whale Island University, a certain senior's tyrant bear was in charge of guarding the door to prevent the tower from being stolen. The other sprites formed a team and went deep into the enemy area. At this moment, a layer of white mist drifted above the forest. The few sprites restrained their auras and walked through the woods. With its meaty paws, the largest red flame Kyang Chi stepped on the ground filled with fallen leaves, not making a single sound. The goat horn immortal, holding a deadwood staff in its hands, looked like a hunchbacked old man. It wasn't slow either. Wherever it passed, the dead branches and leaves behind it trembled slightly, erasing all traces of the few sprites. Above, a small white bird circled and scanned the surroundings. One in front, one behind, one on top. They formed a simple defensive formation. In the middle of the formation was a butterfly fairy with its hands pressed together. Its eyes were closed and its wings trembled slightly as it advanced at a constant speed. In fact, it was using its spiritual perception to scan the surrounding area. Gurgle. It didn't speak, but instead, used its mental power to send a similar message to its little friends. I found that big dog, gurgle. The few sprites approached secretly and covertly. They used illusions to conceal the waves and quietly ambushed the big dog on the path that it had to pass in order to head to a certain resource point. A white figure leaped out of the woods and suddenly realized that something was wrong. On the left, a red beam flew out from a tricky angle. It was the advanced unique skill Burning Light. At the same time, a ball of leaves formed from countless leaves stacked together flew out from the right. That was the secret manual leaf ball created by Heavenly King Wu. The two killer moves formed a pincer attack on the Storm God Hound. Right in front of it, a sharp light suddenly came hitting, piercing the big white dog's eyes. It made its brain feel dizzy for no reason. Bang! The scorching light pierced through everything, blowing up countless clouds wherever it passed. Amidst the smoke and dust, countless leaves danced, riddling the surrounding ground with holes. Continue, don't stop. Wang Qi said to the others on the tower. Their sprites didn't conserve their spiritual force as they continued to blast towards the smoke and dust. Rumbling sounds could be heard non-stop, and the people on the spectator platform could clearly see the clouds of smoke rising. Suddenly, a white shadow rushed out of the smoke. Its hair was slightly charred, and part of its body was bald. It looked miserable, but its aura was still oppressive as it let out a fierce roar. Howl! The moment the white shadow rushed out, it pounced towards the smaller-sized bird that was flying in the air. Follow the battle principal. Nanny had to die first. Gurgle gurgle! The Holy Spirit bird cried out anxiously. With a flap of its wings, it tried to escape quickly. However, the Storm God Hound bit very tightly behind it, and the distance between them was closing up. Suddenly, Red Flame Qiangqi and the Holy Spirit bird picked up pace and brushed past each other. The wings of the Red Flame Qiangqi turned into flames, and its meaty palms stepped on the fire wheel. A circle of flames kept spinning around it, slowly forming the shape of a ball. It slammed hard. The Holy Spirit bird also changed directions immediately and spat out 3-in-1 light element energy balls. The two surrounding giant trees that weren't destroyed by the aftershock seemed to have come alive. They waved their thick branches and attacked the Storm God Hound from the back. In an instant, they completed a wonderful collaboration. However, splash! Around the Storm God Hound, endless spinning wind surrounded it. A huge body made of airflow appeared outside its body, and its huge claw slapped down on the sprite's head. Bang! Red Flame Qiangqi was sent flying. The 3-in-1 energy balls hit the huge body but only made it tremble continuously. Before long, the two huge trees that looked like they came alive were also killed by the wind blades. Facing the siege of 3 same-level sprites, not only was it not weak, it could also counterattack. Too strong, so that Storm Godhound didn't show its full strength yesterday. Huang Tianli's tone was extremely fast as he explained the unique skills and secret manuals one by one. In the end, he added, Whale Island University's ambush didn't manage to seriously injure the Storm Godhound, which means that they no longer have any hope. Dragon City University won't give them a second chance. As expected, on the screen, the other 3 sprites from Dragon City University came to help. Red Flame Qiangqi was completely at a disadvantage. The Goathorn Immortal, which was not good at staying alive, was the first to be targeted. When it was almost eliminated, it was summoned away in time. Even so, its injuries are not light, and the other few. Huang Tianli saw the Holy Spirit Bird and Red Flame Qiangqi being summoned out of the battlefield one after another. But that butterfly fairy was a step slower. Amidst the rumbling, countless wind blades exploded on its petite body, causing the countless viewers in front of the TV to involuntarily close their eyes. Butterfly Fairy's sprite trainer is inexperienced, he didn't summon it back in. Before he could say the word time, Huang Tianli saw its body turn into countless light dots in the green butterfly robe before exploding with a bang. Among the flying green and pink light dots in the sky, 3 ping-pong-sized round beads fell from mid-air. Wisps of grey mist flew out with a whoosh. The whole butterfly fairy was like a flower in the mirror, disappearing in an instant. Only the 3 beads made a soft sound when they fell to the ground. Everyone understood that this wasn't just an illusion. A few minutes ago, near the tower where Dragon City University was located, Gurgle. Butterfly, which was only the size of a palm, crawled out of a bush and looked into the distance. It saw thick smoke rushing into the sky. The plan can begin, Gurgle. Its body turned one round, and with a bang, it returned to its appearance of more than a meter tall. It was still hiding in the bushes, but the hair on its head stood up. It shook twice. It discovered the sprite guarding the tower. It was more than 3 meters tall, thunder element, and had fuzzy hair. It was a thunder roaring. It's from the same race as Fat Bear, Gurgle. After simulating the plan in its mind, Butterfly didn't hesitate and quietly flew down the tower. At this moment, in the tower, a strong thunder bear stood behind the door, blocking most of the 3-meter-tall door. Its ears were propped up, and it was very focused as it stared outside, but after all, there were continuous rumbling from the far end, and it was very bored here. After staring for a long time, the strong thunder bear couldn't help but yawn. It shook its head again and forced itself to look around. Suddenly, its ears twitched, and it raised its bare paw to shield itself. In the next moment, energy balls flew out from the grass in front of it one after another. Rumble! The huge impact from the explosion of the energy balls made the strong thunder bear retreat involuntarily, but in the next moment, it grabbed the ground with both feet and held on, not daring to take a step back. At the same time, it raised its other paw and shot out a bolt of lightning towards that patch of grass. Boom! The grass was directly vaporized, and a human-shaped sprite flew out from it. Its body split into countless palm-sized illusion butterflies, which flew towards it forcefully, with an intention to fly past it and into the tower. Oh howl! The strong thunder bear roared and released countless bolts of lightning. With crackling sounds, it eliminated most of the illusion butterflies. The remaining gathered together and turned into the appearance of the butterfly fairy. At this moment, ripples appeared in the space above. A huge bursting flame bat the size of a double bed suddenly appeared. Flames burst out of its mouth as it bit towards the butterfly fairy a few meters away. Butterfly fairy seemed to be shocked, its butterfly wings trembled slightly as it escaped into the distance. The bursting flame bat couldn't quite stop the butterfly fairy with its own strength. It couldn't help but squeak at the strong thunder bear, seeking for its help to stop the butterfly fairy. The thunder bear shook its head. Its expression was saying, "My sprite trainer handed me the mission to guard the door. It's useless even if you say I'm rigid, unless my sprite trainer opens his mouth." It was stunned. In its mind, its sprite trainer seemed to have told it, "Chase after it, chase after it, chase after it, chase after it." With a howl, it stepped on the ground with all 4 legs and chased after it forcefully. At this moment, on the top floor of the tower, the 5 people from Dragon City University stood on the porch and looked into the distance. Captain Wang Dong said, "They will definitely summon their sprites back. Then we'll go up directly to block the door and solve the problem at the source," he said before he suddenly saw Lanqing frown. He couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong?" Lanqing didn't answer. She just closed her eyes and listened. After a while, she said, "The wind, the sound of the wind is a little wrong." She looked down calmly. At this moment, the thunder roaring that was guarding the entrance roared. For no reason, it ran out on all 4s, as if it was chasing something. However, there was nothing in front. "It's under an illusion," the experienced Wang Dong shouted. The next moment, a clear voice sounded behind them. "Gurgle! Checkmate!" Wang Dong and the others had ashen expressions. The audience was dead silent. A second ago, everyone thought that the outcome was set. The students from Dragon City University who were watching the battle on the spot had even started cheering. But the cheers stopped abruptly. In its place was dead silence and disbelief. What happened? What exactly happened? Why did that thunder roaring suddenly leave? And what was with the butterfly fairy? How did it enter the tower? Questions kept popping up in their minds. The people watching the live stream even commented a series of. At this moment, their feelings were no longer something that could be expressed with what the f*ck and confusion. In the broadcasting hall, the two commentators were the same. They were constantly looking through the scene records and finally found some traces. So, the butterfly fairy who ambushed the storm godhound was fake from the start. From the beginning, it had already quietly made a detour and hid under the tower. When the time was right, it used an illusion to lure thunder roaring away without attracting the attention of the people from Dragon City University and directly achieved a checkmate. This operation. He took a deep breath but was still unable to conceal the shock on his face. As an experienced and knowledgeable master-level sprite trainer, not only did he see the excellence of tactics, he also saw butterfly fairies, brilliance, no, it should be called magical illusion. Its illusion is the key to Whale Island University achieving checkmate. Tian Li, many audience members are asking about Fairy Butterfly's clone. What do you think about this? Use your eyes to look. His expression froze. The rich knowledge and experience in his mind couldn't bring him any clues. He was also in despair. The judge announced the result in the sky. The whole venue was in chaos. The situation had changed too quickly. Many people's faces were slapped so hard that they were still in a daze. Most people were confused, while some were indignant, depressed, and dejected. A small number of people were in ecstasy. For example, Mentor Ma, Tong Shang, and a few other seniors who were just there for fun. They didn't expect that they would actually win. Another example. Fiery Bird University Lounge. Whale Island won. The competition only started for 10 over minutes. What the FCK, what the FCK, what the F***CK. It was the same what the F***CK, but it was said in surprise. Captain Gong Gai Tianrui said, Dragon City University lost even faster than our match. That also means that if we can defeat Whale Island University, we have hopes of winning the championship. From the battle analysis just now, Whale Island University won in tactics. Of course, that butterfly fairy is also a little tricky, but... He looked at one of them. A completely black crow stood on that person's shoulder. We have a dark night raven, a double element dark and illusion sprite. It has also mastered illusion, so... From despair to hope. Gong Gai Tianrui's expression became increasingly excited as he spoke. That afternoon, Fiery Bird University's reserve member defeated Suani University cleanly. Their official members were all preparing for the battle tomorrow. It was the last day of the league. The battle for the championship had dramatically returned to Whale Island University and Fiery Bird University. At this moment, no one dared to make any judgment. No one dared to guarantee who would win or lose. Our tactical core is my Fiery Bird and Jiming's Dark Night Raven. Before the competition started, Gong Gai Tianrui said. We bumped into them. Quick, surround and cut through the resource points. Old G, tell your Raven to be wary of illusion at all times. I don't want my Fiery Bird to fall for it. Don't worry, just defense alone, it's impossible to be hit with my Raven's presence. But the defense of the tower. Don't worry, Old Wang will personally go to the bottom of the tower and guard it with his sprite. With the sprite trainer's barrier, as long as there are traces of illusion, he will be alerted immediately. The same move won't work again. 30 minutes after the competition started, Gong Gai Tianrui and the other members said so. Advantage, we have an advantage now, hurry up and attack. At a certain moment, Gong Gai Tianrui said excitedly. The next moment, Gong Gai Tianrui's face was ashen as he said with a trembling voice, when did we fall into the illusion? Ji Ming, whose sprite was the Dark Night Raven, had a blank look on his face. I don't know either. In today's battle, the views of the drones had long been locked onto Butterfly Fairy. Thus, the audience witnessed a strange scene. At first, the sprites on both sides did bump into each other, and it gradually evolved into a 4v4 team battle, but they soon sensed that something was wrong. Fiery Bird and the other sprites, who were originally in the midst of an intense battle, left their opponents one after another. Instead, they faced the air and started chomping wildly. That Butterfly Fairy actually dragged 4 sprites of the same level into the illusion alone. There's even a Dark Knight Raven inside. How strong is its mental strength? Terrifying, too scary. That's Suhao's sprite? He's only a first-year student? Not only does he have a flaming spirit crow with extremely strong battle power, he also has an even more terrifying Butterfly Fairy. What exactly is going on in society these days? Young people are giving us no way out. In the previous round, I thought that Whale Island University could win because they caught their opponent off guard with their tactics, but I understand now. At that time, Butterfly Fairy could use an illusion to easily lure Thunder roaring away, which meant that it had already crushed that Thunder Bear and could easily eliminate it. Fiery Bird, Dark Knight Raven, and the other 2 sprites were silently restrained. Their sprite trainers couldn't sense it either because they weren't injured and were quite a distance away. But the audience outside the arena could see that apart from Butterfly Fairy, Red Flame Kyung-chi and the other sprites had already rushed towards the tower. They charged straight into the tower. Only if Gonggai Tianrui and the others discovered the situation and summoned Fiery Bird and the other 3 sprites back in time. But the hundreds of illusion imprint layers on the sprites they summoned back were suddenly detonated. The brains of the few sprites were in extreme pain, and their battle power was reduced by 70 to 80%. Rather than calling their return a defense, it was more like a gift for free. They were taken away by Red Flame Kyung-chi and the other sprites that had long prepared for this. There was no longer any suspense in the battle. The time was fixed at 56 minutes and 43 seconds. Whale Island University's tower attack was successful. The champion team of the High School League had appeared. Let us congratulate Whale Island University for winning this year's High School League Championship. Congratulations to them. The whole place was in an uproar. Countless gazes looked at the big screen, where 5 figures stood on the top floor of the tower. Especially the youngest and most handsome contestant, Suhao. At this moment, this name was remembered by countless spectators. Chapter 260, Dragon Nation's Treasure Vault. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed since the battle ended. The popularity of the league was at its peak as netizens were discussing it fervently. Suhao scrolled through his cell phone when he had nothing to do and watched others discuss things related to him. From time to time, he pretended to be an ordinary netizen and echoed, "Yes, yes, yes, he's too awesome," broken voice. Butterfly, Red Flame Kyung-chi, and the other sprites were all on camera, but Suhao was surprised to find out that his handsome face was rarely seen on the internet. It wasn't just him, as the others were the same. Yesterday, he walked around the streets of Dragon City and clearly heard people calling him from time to time. When he turned around and looked, apart from the young ladies and aunties, who were attracted to him, no one else recognized him. Maybe it's what Mentor Ma had said. It looks high profile on the surface, but it's actually low-key. He knew the reason. Every school needed to use the league as a platform to showcase their teaching results. Dragon Nation needed to use the league's live stream to broadcast the profession of sprite trainers. Since the cost of contracting and cultivating sprites had already decreased today, advertising was especially necessary. And sprite universities were the best way for ordinary people and ordinary families to step into the world of sprite trainers. But due to the presence of aliens and organizations like the Dark Society, the information confidentiality of the league students had been raised to a high level. In the eyes of the audience, only his name, school, grade, and sprites were on the internet. This prevented him from attracting the surprised cries of many young ladies, but he wasn't a vulgar person either. He only participated in the league to swipe experience bags and get some rewards. Now, he had also used the experience bags to upgrade the Dazed Crow to extraordinary level. Dumb Unicorn was the only lacking sprite left. There's no need to swipe the bags next year. Well, let me see what's the reward first, alright. When he heard that the reward had been sent to his account today, he opened his fingers and was about to summon the Dumb Unicorn when he suddenly saw. In front, about 100 meters away, was a shared Sprite service station. There were a few water blue horses tied inside. They were Dumb Unicorn's distant relatives' Water Cloud horse. He walked forward and saw a nameplate hanging around the necks of every horse. On each of them was a very eye-catching QR code. And on the service station signboard, there were hints on how to rent shared sprites. This shared sprite service uses sprites that are non-aggressive, good-tempered, and skilled. Please ride them without any worry. This service uses a time fee mode. You can stop at any location and dismount. Our sprites will return to the service station on their own. Soga. It was just that the fee was a little expensive, dozens of times more expensive than the shared bicycle. No wonder there aren't many customers. Seeing his arrival, the few horses let out neigh-neigh calls. Su Hao couldn't understand, but he could roughly guess what they were calling. Sken me neigh. How enthusiastic! With his eyes, Su Hao glanced at a water cloud horse that seemed to have a better affinity with him. Then, he saw the horse untie itself, walked in front of him, and squatted down. The saddle on its back was just at the height Su Hao could sit on with one step. Look, this is what service is. Su Hao really wanted to bring out the Dumb Unicorn and say this to him. The subsequent riding experience made him feel that the Dumb Unicorn was still lacking a lot. The water cloud horse's footsteps are extraordinarily steady. When I sit on its saddle, my butt feels very comfortable. It doesn't feel uncomfortable sitting on the horse while playing with my cell phone at all. Speaking of saddles, Su Hao had long wanted to prepare one for the Dumb Unicorn, but he faced a technical problem. Summon. The saddle couldn't be together with Dumb Unicorn, so it was summoned back by him. Unless, for example, Butterfly's Spiritual Orb and Mirage Energy Orb can be brought back together when summoned, but other elemental crystals can't. The Mirage Energy Orb was a high-level treasure, while the Spiritual Orb was an extension of the Spiritual Force solidification. From this perspective, Su Hao had a bit of an idea. The most important thing now is to push the Dumb Unicorn to the extraordinary level. Oh, no, to receive the reward. While he was thinking, they arrived at the school gate of Dragon City University. The high-quality water cloud horse automatically squatted down. Su Hao got off the saddle and waved at the horse. Neigh-neigh. The water cloud horse left step by step, turning its head from time to time, as if it was saying, "Dear customer, come and ride often." A certain villa in the League Village. In NPC Mentor Ma's hand was a stack of cards. He picked up a black card. Inside is 30 million Dragon Nation dollars, the basic reward for the champion of the league. He picked up another card, which had a red lotus flower engraved on it. This is the Red Lotus Group's Spirit Jade card. With this card, you can extract a total of 250 kilograms of spiritual jades of various attributes from each shop in the Red Lotus Group. Mentor Ma picked up the third and last card. Engraved on it was a tree crown that held up the sky. This is the Green Shade Group's high-level shopping card. It can buy goods worth 20 million yuan. Also, it can buy good things that can't be bought with ordinary currency. The three cards had already made the eyes of many members light up. But that was just the appetizer. One of the rewards for winning the league is specially provided by Dragon City University. It has been constantly promoted long before the start of the tournament. That is the pure pool of Dragon City University. Mentor Ma said, the pure pool can purify the sprite's spiritual force and mental strength, allowing the sprite to take another step forward, and even break through a huge bottleneck. It's a very precious cultivation venue. I heard that it was moved back from the New World, but because it requires a large amount of precious materials every time it is used, every slot is very precious, much more precious than our school's comprehension of the profound meaning stone tablet, and you. He paused for a moment. All 5 of you official candidates have a chance to send your sprites into the pure pool. Su Hao was one of the 5 official candidates. Tong Shang and the other substitutes were naturally envious, but jealous. They didn't dare to be jealous, they didn't dare to be jealous. Their trump cards had all been abused by Butterfly before. It was already pretty good that they could get a share of the other prizes. Then, they heard Mentor Ma say, "Of course, the other precious reward is for all of you." He paused and created some suspense before saying, "That is, to choose treasures from our Dragon Nation's treasury. In a while, Heavenly King Buletin will bring you to that treasure vault that I have no idea where it is. I can only tell you that there are many treasures in the treasure vault. If you can find a suitable one, it will be very helpful to you. Perhaps the opportunity for a sprite to break through to monarch rank in the future is related to a certain treasure. To be honest, I've never been there." Mentor Ma's tone was inevitably regretful, completely whetting everyone's appetite. A few of them were curious, but they couldn't ask. If they asked, they would be spoiling the fun. Until 10 minutes later. Bang! 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 Accompanied by the familiar trembling of the ground, a strong and muscular body appeared outside the villa window, blocking the sunlight while casting a large shadow. It was Muscles. Cough, Martial Arts Heavenly King. As he spoke, his voice rumbled into everyone's ears. "Come with me now, I'll bring you to the treasure vault to choose your rewards for the league. Just bring yourselves along, you don't have to bring anything else." As he spoke, he turned around and walked out step by step. The sunlight shone on Heavenly King Buletin's bronze skin, reflected bits of metallic luster. Following Heavenly King Buletin, the 10 of them went straight to the intersection of a neighborhood in the dormitory district. After waiting for a short while, they saw a few familiar people coming over. There was Captain Wang Dong from the Dragon City University team, team member Lan Qing, and so on, a total of 4 people. Su Hao's gaze swept over, stopping on the slightly familiar girl for an instant. That girl didn't have much expression, but when the others from Dragon City University saw them, their expressions were a little unconvinced. Indeed, those who were jealous of him were all males. Then, he saw that 2 people from Fiery Bird's school team had also arrived. They were all led by the Heavenly Kings from their respective schools. Suddenly, a water line appeared in the distance and arrived in front of them in the blink of an eye. It was a huge water ball. The water ball dissolved, revealing the figure inside. A middle-aged woman and a somewhat peculiar-looking fairy snail with coral reefs stuck around its shell. Monarch rank. She was clearly another Heavenly King. "You can just call her Heavenly King Gong," Heavenly King Buletin said. He took 2 steps forward and actually smiled. Alling. The newbies didn't dare to listen to the conversation between the big bosses. Before long, the coral fairy snail spewed out countless streams of water like a dimensional hole, turning into a huge water ball that enveloped everyone. With a boom, the water ball rose and flew into the sky. The blue water screen blocked their vision. When they looked over, they couldn't see anything. There was no wind, no shaking. It was as if they were still standing where they were. But before long, the water screen that enveloped them dissipated inch by inch. The scene in front of them was clearly not Dragon City University anymore. Heavenly King Gong said, "We're here. Follow me closely next."